Well, I live in a 55 plus community, retirement community in Central Florida. And they have strict rules about what you can and cannot do. So they don't care much for my welding hobby. And I'm trying to clean up some of my scrap so it looks a little better. So today I'm going to continue working on a little bin to hold the shorter scrap in. Then I'll get back to cleaning up the scrap and throwing away what I can't clean up. So here goes. I have learned that my GoPro camera speaker is virtually worthless beyond 2 or 3 feet. So I'm doing a lot of talking in this that you can't hear. So I started adding captions, and we'll probably continue to do that, but I'm going to try to do a narrative for you. Chain is an excellent resource. It's cheap. That is, if you buy a second-hand chain. And because the pieces I'm buying are too short to have much use for anything, I can weld those together and form a structure. It's especially good for freehand work, because they don't have to be straight, they don't have to be square. So in this case, I'm building a rack. It's going to be a 18 inches by 18 inches square, more or less. And I'm going to do 2 of them with 3 inches between the 2 of them to hold the short scrap. I'm probably going to have to space them by 3 inches. I put spacers shorter than 3 inches across the top so that the short pieces don't fall to the bottom. And the bottom's just going to be the floor. It will have no top, so this is a very simple project. I found that granola oil works very well to prevent or to make splatters and things that get on the workbench. It wipes off easily. It also works good for the tip on the flex core welder. So anyway, on the welding these links together, since it never comes out exactly 18 inches, I'm just welding it together until it fits my workbench, and then I'm using a angle grinder to shorten the length to 18 inches. This is Central Florida, so by 10:30 it's 90 degrees, so I have to rush around in the mornings to get things done, so I do it pretty much without a break, and at my age that's a little bit tough. Of course, soon we'll be getting into the fall and winter, which is heaven for Central Florida. I'll be able to work off and on all day, or as long as I want. I'm just going to put one link catty-cornered into the vise. It doesn't require a lot of strength to hold it. I could even do it by just laying it down on the workbench, but because it sometimes kicks back, I wanted to lock it down a little bit. And by the way, I encourage everybody to use all the safety gear and safety cautions. I don't always, but I have some scars to show for it. So keep that in mind. As I said before, I only have about 2 hours to work before it gets too hot to work. So I'm trying to deal with this chain while it's still hot from the wells, which creates a few problems. I would like to have clamped it down, but my best clamp for the purpose has plastic jaws, and it simply wouldn't hold up to the residual heat from the wells. So I just freehand it, and which is it would be a lot easier if I'd used the flux core welder, because I don't have the sticking problem that I do with stick welding. This is a comical juggling act, trying to get this thing, you know, that. See, here I am trying to use that clamp, which I favor, but it's because it's a quick release, and but when I put it on there, the heat on the chain was so great, it was beginning to melt the plastic jaws, so I had to forego that and go to plan B, which was just to hold it with one hand and weld with the other. Oh, I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember the old silent movies, but one of them was the Keystone Cops, and I'm making a pretty good copy of that nonsense. I'm going to put chapter markings on this so that you can skip over parts of it, because this is rather long. And sad to say, not one of my most informative. I will use this opportunity to talk a little bit about the equipment I have. As you can see to the left bottom of the frame, there's a compressor, and I have a 11-gallon auxiliary tank for that, and I'm uncovering a rack with all my clamps. The HOA here requires me to have everything covered when it's not in use, and that's sort of a pain. So I'm still looking for a clamp, a metal clamp that will fit on that, and I'm going to cut some of this out, because that clamp didn't work out, suffice it to say. I was going to cut this part out, but it's funny, I guess. Here I am trying to use this metal C-clamp to hold chain. It's been welded together, which means it's twisted every which way. To hold it to the table, and of course it keeps slipping off, and so it's not going to do. So if nothing else works, just hit it with a damn hammer. No, actually what I'm doing here is trying to get it together, and of course that made the problem of it slipping off even worse. So Keystone Cops. And the thing that's really funny is the fact that it wouldn't work. I had to end up freehanded and holding it anyway. So here I am having it's too hot to hold with my gloved hand, so I have to take my pair of pliers, try to hold it in place, and then stick weld it with the other hand. Okay, well, if all else fails. Fortunately, there's absolutely no precision in this project. It's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a corral for short pieces of scrap metal. Oh, me. Just dangle it up there and tack it. I'm a hobby welder, so I do stuff just for the heck of it. I got into it to do metal art, and I'm finding out I'm not much of an artist, but I do enjoy watching metal melt. So in this video, since I'm doing everything by freehand with a stick welder, it's either sad or comical, whichever way you want to look at it. I started welding again after 50 years of not. And even when I was welding way back then, it was just necessities I had to do because I was in the middle of nowhere. So, despite how comical or sad this may be, I feel like I made a lot of progress in using a stick welder. I'm still having it stick from time to time, as these videos will show. And there's one really comical section that I'll repeat just for your amusement. I should wait for the chain and sections I've welded to cool down, and I'm not doing that because this is Central Florida, and this time of year, about the 10 or 10:30, it's 90 degrees. That forces me inside, so I have to do a lot quickly. So that just adds to the comedy that you're seeing. Wait for it. I think the big comedy section's coming up. I've got a short length of chain that I'm not going to tie down, and I'm going to tack it to the sections I've already welded. So my electrode gets stuck in that, and then trying to...
I don't know that one.
That was Alexa breaking in. But at any rate, not having that tied down, when it got stuck and I tried to get it loose, it put on a real show. The only way I got it to stop was to disconnect the ground lead. Like 4th of July. All else fails, use a hammer. Okay. So maybe I got through this. No, there it is. I'm still working on that next section of chain. Can't remember precisely when the show began. Remember, I'm dealing with very hot metal, so I'm trying to juggle a pair of pliers and the chain and the electrode. Oh, funny, funny. If memory serves, it was after I put in a new electrode. The longer electrode makes it harder to control the tip of it. This time I'm not bothering to put it in a vise. So I'm just holding that hot metal with a pair of pliers, I think it was, and doing the cutting. And I'm not even wearing my, no, I am wearing my full face shield, so good for me. Maybe I'll keep those eyes. My dilemma here was, since none of the chain was absolutely flat, and since the welding surface I was working on was below the surface of the welding table itself, I tried to come up with some spacing that would work, and finally decided I could freehand holding it in the right spot while I tacked it. I guess my confidence in my stick welding abilities has really improved. All right, what are you going to do, fella? Let's get on the welding helmet. Give it a good try. Now this one I'm freehanding the two joints together while I weld them or tack them. I think we're coming up on the real comedy show here. When your rod sticks to a piece of chain and it's flying everywhere. While you're shaking it trying to get the rod unstuck. There we go. Hey, hey! Yeah. Yeah, look at that camera. You were caught. You were caught. Mm-hmm. Oh well. Don't give up. Just keep going. There's always got to be a little comedy in a welding video. Next time I do a video of a project I'm working on, I'm going to move the camera in closer to the table so you can actually see what it is I'm working on. So this is pretty poor. Now here I clamped it down because that particular length of chain hadn't got terribly hot. And having just had a real fun time with that thing flying around everywhere, I decided I would try the practical approach. So I welded a couple of links, but I can't get too close to that clamp because it's got a plastic jaw which will melt. I've got two of those. Those are my favorite clamps. Quick to put on, a very wide jaw, and it really works well. Except here. Uses it for purposes for which I'm sure it was never intended. This is going to be a long video. I'm going to put in chapter settings down in the description section so that you can jump to whatever might interest you. And I'm certainly going to flag the comedy portion of this. It may be the only value of this particular video is to encourage the newbies not to be timid. Everybody has their own problems in the beginning. And although mine is not so much with welding, it may just be stupidity. But I'm having fun, and that's the point of the exercise, I guess. I don't know why I was having so much problems with it sticking in that section. Of course, I'm just laying it down on the grounded table, so maybe if I'd had a little better ground, it might have done a little better. It sure is convenient just grounding the table. Don't have to keep moving it. And here again, if I had chosen to use my flux core wire welder, this would have been a snap, because I rarely ever have the wire welder stick. So it's perfect for tacking things together quickly. But I had these E6011 rods that I don't like and don't use them often, so I'm trying to get those used up. What I'm doing here is just one of the segments that I welded some time back for some other project, but it was just scrap. I was trying to straighten it up enough to use it. And since nothing's straight in this project, I ended up using it, so hey. Now, I do have some virgin steel, so if you look way in the background, you'll see that rack that's covered with a green tarp, and that's 20-foot sections of steel. So, but that's gotten so expensive. 3 or 4 months ago, I could buy 1-inch, quarter-inch angle iron for about 85 cents a foot, and now it's $1.50 a foot. And since I'm not doing any structural stuff right now, building that welding table was the place I used a lot of that good steel. But I don't have anything on the agenda right at present, except stuff like this. For entertainment purposes only. So I'm cutting the last leg to length, more or less, and about ready to get the structure finished. Now remember, the metal's still mighty hot. If I could have taken a 30-minute break, that would have been better, but getting hot. While the metal's cooling, the weather's getting hot. I gotta keep at it. I'm gonna do it if I'm gonna finish that part of it today. Before I welded it, the last segment in, I'm going back, and some of the tacks didn't look like they would hold. I went in and welded them in to make it stronger. Well, this view probably gives you the best idea of what it is I'm actually building here. Next time I'll have the camera much closer. And I've got one more of these to build, and then the 3-inch hosts that are going to hold them up. It'll fit flat on the ground because the cement will be the floor. There'll be no top. As I've said before, it's just a corral. Hopefully I remembered to hold this thing up after I've done all the welding, so that you can sort of get some idea of what it looks like. If not, I'll need to go out with my camera and film the finished product. Although at this point it's not finished, it's got to be wire brushed. Now what I'm doing here is I'm knocking some of the shielding off of one of the rods, because there was a pretty good gap there, and I'm doing what's referred to as Texas TIG. I'm using another rod as a filler to cover a big wide space, which I find to be very effective. I use it a lot, too much, because it indicates I don't do the prep I should. If I'm doing a project that requires good specs, I do prep better, but as I said, this project is mostly just watching the steel burn or melt. All right. So here it is, level 1, and the metal cost on this was less than the rods I burned putting it together. Stuff I bought at a garage sale or flea market or something. So I'll be starting on the other soon enough for the second level. Well, this is the worst of my videos, I guess, but I hope you'll subscribe and click on notifications so that you can see my better ones as they come out. But it's 10 o'clock, 90 degrees in Central Florida, so it's time to stop before this old boy bites the dust.